No matter what trading strategy that you try, you just can't seem to make it work. You can't make money over a long period of time. You've probably blown accounts, failed funded challenges, and tried multiple trading strategies, and you're still stuck where you are now, which is why you're watching this video. You've likely tried one of these strategies and maybe many more. Smart money concepts, ICT, support and resistance, order flow, candlestick patterns, the list goes on. And yet no matter what you tried or who taught you, nothing seemed to work. And you see all these traders online trading the exact strategies that they're telling you to trade, and they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars. And you're left wondering, why does this not work for me? What am I doing wrong? Or maybe, are any of these traders even legit? Is this all one big scam? Well, essentially, I want to explain to you that there's something more important than just the trading strategy. In fact, there are 3 things that any trader who takes any trading strategy, if they don't do these 3 things, they will never see success with any strategy. That's why I'm here to tell you that strategy is not the #1 thing. So 98% of traders get stuck in this one failure cycle. And it goes something like this. You start out, maybe you go to YouTube, you open YouTube and you see a shiny trading strategy. Someone who promises an 80% win rate that makes $100,000 a month. And although you're a little bit skeptical, a part of you is excited. And so you go, you check it out, and you become interested. Then you see that trader break down this strategy in so much detail, why it's so powerful, how it works, how you can trade it just like them, step by step. Maybe they even show you some live examples of them taking trades using this exact strategy. Then you head into the trap. This is step number 3. Without any preparation, you just go to the live markets. You had a good understanding, everything was clicking, everything made sense when he was explaining it. Now it's your job to replicate that same edge. You go to the live market, you start taking trades. You take one trade. It's a winner. When you win that trade, that gives you so much euphoria. You're at a point now where you think, maybe I've got it. Maybe this is the strategy. Maybe this is what's going to solve all of my problems. Maybe you take another trade. Maybe it's another winner. At that point, you're so confident in this strategy. Maybe you begin going to search for funded accounts. Maybe you begin funding your own personal account. But at some point, the inevitable happens. You will go on a losing streak. That's point number 4. What happens is you go on a losing streak. You take a couple of trades. You take a trade, you take a loss. No problem, I'm still profitable. Another trade, another loss. Third trade, another loss. By the 3rd trade, you're starting to doubt things. How could this be happening? This is an 80% win rate. I don't understand. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe the strategy doesn't work. Maybe he lied to me. This is where all the problems start coming back in. And before you know it, you're a couple of weeks into trading the strategy and you've blown a funded account. You've lost half of your personal account and you're back to square one. This is a very depressing point to reach because this isn't your first time. This is your 5th time, your 6th time, your 7th time finding a strategy online, thinking that it works, but then being proved wrong by the market. And eventually what happens, you'll end up back in the same cycle. You'll end up finding another strategy, giving someone else another chance, another video another chance. Now, the issue is any strategy can work. The problem is that you're doing it wrong. You see, there are 3 things that you have to do in order to validate any strategy or validate your ability to trade that strategy. You will not make money unless you do these 3 things. So the first thing is you must validate that system. So you must validate that system. Now, what validation looks like in the sense of a system is understanding the step-by-step strategy. You must know all of the rules involved with that trading plan. But here's the kicker. The problem is, instead of validating the system, you just go and trade it in the live market. Well, now you have a huge problem because all of those losses that you took, even all of those wins that you took, you don't actually know whether this system is set to make returns consistently. Because here's what many traders can do, especially online. They can tell you an 80% win rate strategy, they can make a YouTube video on it, and they can show you live trades of that strategy. Here's the kicker. Maybe they show you 5 trades. Maybe 4 of those 5 trades win. The problem is, do you want to be profitable over 5 trades? Or do you want to be profitable over 5 years? That's the big difference. You see, you don't know that that strategy is profitable until you've validated it. Now here's the kicker again. Most traders simply just do not know how to validate a system. That's why they don't do it. They think this person's already validated the system, so I don't need to validate the system. That's mistake number 1. Because until you validate the system, you don't know whether you're trading the system right. You don't know whether it's actually going to work. And the problem then becomes every loss that you take with that system hurts 1,000,000 times more. This leads to doubt, frustration. Now, here's the thing with trading. You see, the biggest killer of a trader isn't losses necessarily. It's not necessarily blowing a funded account. You see, for me personally, the most difficult thing to deal with is the doubt, the uncertainty. It's the not knowing what I'm actually doing. It's this gut feeling inside of you that's screaming, I'm lost. I don't actually know what I'm doing. And there's this sense of hopelessness because the more you try something, it doesn't work, the more you reinforce that same self-doubt. And so the doubt and the uncertainty is what creates the discomfort. It's what creates the anxiety. It's what makes most traders quit. I've been so close to quitting on so many occasions, not because of the lost trades, not because of the blown accounts. I can deal with that. Yes, it sucks. Yes, it's painful. But nothing comes close to hopelessness. When you reach a point where you just feel like you're trying and trying and trying, and nothing seems to be working, that's the most difficult place to be in trading. And it's a place where I've been many of times, and every time I feel like quitting. And obviously I look back and I'm super grateful that I didn't, because all of those painful moments led to the eventual success. You see, the difficult thing is that trading doesn't give you that same linear progression that society tells us that is so good. Like in the normal world, let's say for example, right? In the normal world, you have a pretty simple system. You have your inputs and you have your outputs. Society tells you, work hard, go to school, get a good paying job, progress up the corporate ladder, and then you'll be happy. And so what happens? You take that same mindset into trading. Now, in the real world, your inputs are pretty linear to your outputs. You get a job, and your job pays you an hourly rate. So you understand that 1 hour of your time equals X amount of dollars, right? The more you work, so the more input, the more output, right? That's what society tells you. Trading isn't like that, and people aren't used to that. See, trading is technically somewhat of the opposite. So this is your kind of normal 9-to-5 standard society job, safe, easier, but the problem is that your output is extremely limited. There's only so much money you can make working a job. There's only so much freedom that you can have. There's only so much freedom financially, so much freedom to travel, and so much freedom with your actual time. So in life, typically speaking, the bigger the reward, the higher the risk, and usually the harder the thing is to achieve. So trading looks more like this. You have your output capability and your inputs, right? So this is, let's say this is trading. Here you have output, and output can essentially be dollar, right? And input, this is kind of your capital. This is your time. Trading is more something like this. You actually may start like this, and you're putting in all this work, and this here is a very difficult place to be. Essentially, this is what I call the valley of despair. This is why. Because in normal life, it looks something like this, right? So you can see from the beginning, which is where a lot of people start, which is where everyone starts, you're immediately used to getting results. Trading's not like that. You see, trading requires delayed gratification. And so this area here, where your inputs from trading are not matching what you think or feel like you deserve. You've been trading for a year now. You've tried multiple different strategies. You've spent countless hours trying to do it, and you haven't made a single dollar. In fact, you've spent money, right? So you are at a net loss in trading. You put all this time in, all this effort, all this money, and you got nothing back. Whereas flip it, everybody around you telling you you're borderline crazy, everyone around you who's got normal, safe, secure paying jobs, they're saying, why are you wasting your time? Get a second job if you want more money. Spend more time with your kids. Spend more time with your wife. Go and get a partner. Live a life, have friends, right? But you're tunnel vision. You see, you don't want normal. You don't want average. You want superior. And so trading is your vehicle. But again, in the beginning, it's difficult because no matter what you're doing, you're just not getting the results, right? And it looks like this. Here's the difference. At some point in time, a shift happens. That moment that you know exists, but you haven't quite got yet, that you're waiting for, that people like me are telling you exists and trying to show you how to get there, it happens. And when it happens, this happens. Now, all of a sudden, your input can be the same level as what it was at the beginning, maybe even less, right? Maybe you're putting less time in than you were at the beginning, but your outputs, what you're actually achieving, are far superior to anything that you could imagine with a normal job, or even anything that you could have imagined when you first started out. And so that's a huge misconception, and that's the difficult part. But hear me out. Getting through this, that's the test, right? If you see trading differently, if you see trading as my ability to endure the pain and get through the valley of despair, that is success in trading. If you can have that mindset instead of when I make X amount of dollars, when I buy this car, when I retire my this, when I retire my that, instead of those being the goal, instead make it, let me follow the process, stick to it long enough until I eventually escape the valley of despair. That's when you'll see the real results. So tying this then back to why it's so important to validate the system. Because the problem is you want to get out of this valley of despair as soon as possible. I mean, obviously, everybody wants to be rewarded for the effort that they're putting in. And in an ideal world, they want to be rewarded more for their effort than their effort in something else. Here's the problem. As much as I believe in working hard, as much as I believe in, the grind and discipline and sacrifice, I also believe in working smart. You see, I still want to get the maximum amount of output for every moment that I invest. Of course, I mean, who wouldn't? So that's why it's so important to validate the system. Because if you continue trading all of these strategies that you think work, but you haven't validated, you are wasting time because you're essentially gambling. You're hoping that this strategy works. And I'm going to tell you now, hope isn't a good strategy. Proof, data, that's a good strategy. So you need to move from a gambler to a proper data scientist when it comes to trader. And I throw that term around, data scientist, and it sounds difficult. Actually, it's very simple. Just most people don't understand how to test the system, collect the data of that system, refine that system. And that is what you need to do in order to validate a system. And that's essentially exactly what I teach my members. Now, I'm someone who teaches my members a trading strategy the same way that you'll be learning trading strategies online. The difference is that I prove mine works long-term. You see, I have a 15-month verified, live, day in, day out, back-tested track record. And I could go way longer, but 15 months to show every single day, every trade taken, wins, losses, break-evens, the entire thing, just to prove that the strategy works. So that validates the system in itself. But most importantly, I show the members how to validate the system themselves. That's the key differentiator, which moves me onto point number 2. Let's say you validate a system You know that the system works, but now you have to validate yourself. So validating yourself is essentially proving that you can adequately follow that system. Because it's one thing having a trading plan. This is why I say it all the time. So many traders can have a trading plan. I've worked with thousands of traders. Some of my students have gone on to get 7 figures in funding, make hundreds of thousands of dollars, life-changing amounts of money. And some of them struggle for a long time until they eventually validate themselves. It's something that so many traders overlook. And again, similar to validation of system, traders don't understand how to validate themselves. They don't have operating systems. You see, trading isn't as simple as just having a plan, showing up to the markets and taking trades and making boatloads of money. Not how the game works. You need to move like an operator. You need to treat trading like a business. Trading is a business. Trading is just a solo business. So trading is a business. Now, you need to treat trading like a business. So can you imagine any business in the world not knowing their numbers? Can you imagine any business in the world having a business plan, having a strategy, but then never reviewing their performance? You know, all companies in the world, if you work for a company, you know this. You have goals, you have targets, you have reviews, you have monthly reviews, quarterly reviews. And what's that all about? That's about understanding where your performance as an individual, as a collective, as an entire company, where the performance deviates from the actual goal itself. Did you hit the target? Exceed it? Did you fall below it? Okay, what happened? Why didn't we hit it? Okay, let's fix those problems. That's operational. That's problem analysis, problem solution. Traders don't do that. For some reason, traders just think that becoming a profitable trader is going to YouTube, finding a trading strategy, seeing someone make money with it, and then taking it to the markets themselves, thinking they'll make money, not making money, and then doubting the strategy or doubting the person who taught them, when actually maybe the issue is you. Now, what would you tell me if I said to you that I was someone, right? That's me. And I've tried these 7 different ways to lose weight. And all of these 7 different ways were taught by people who had a track record of helping other people lose weight. In fact, they even have themselves stories, pictures, images, proof that they've gone from where they were to where they are. And they're telling you, follow this framework. And if you just do these things, that's how you will lose weight. Now, what if I come into you and tell you like, hey, man, like, I just can't lose weight. All these 7 experts have told me how to lose weight. And for some reason, I just can't seem to do it. What would you say? You'd probably say something along the lines of, hey man, like maybe you're the problem. Like maybe you're doing something wrong. It's just too coincidental that all of those people with all of that proof and all of that track record is giving you the information, and somehow you think you're so special that it doesn't work for you, right? That's an ego thing. Imagine if we flipped it for a second so you can psychologically process what I'm explaining for you. Imagine for a second, right, we're talking about the lottery. Now, I'm against the lottery. I don't believe in gambling. I'm a trader. It doesn't make sense to me. I'd rather put my money somewhere where I have a control over my return. But imagine, let's take the lottery, for example, right? Now, one person out of a million or tens of millions of people, hundreds of millions of people in the world play the lottery, and one of them win mega money. Now, what do you say when that one person wins that lottery? It's a miracle. They're extremely lucky. It's impossible. Those are the things that you would say. If someone said like, I'm gonna win the lottery next week, and there's 10 million, 100 million people competing, you're like, bro, that's impossible. No way, right? Well, that's essentially what you're doing. When you're telling yourself that something that has worked for so many people just doesn't work for you, you're essentially saying the same thing. And so it doesn't actually make sense. You have to look at something else. which is why it's about validation of the self. Now again, validation of the self is essentially your ability to trade that plan properly. That's the issue. The thing is there's a huge misunderstanding in the trading space. People think just because a strategy works, then that automatically qualifies them to make money with that strategy. That's not entirely the truth, because trading has this funny thing that's called a performance gap, right? Performance gap. A performance gap is the difference between your expected returns. So if you have a strategy and it's proven to be profitable in backtesting, maybe it made 100% in that one year. But the performance gap is when you come to the live market, how much of that 100% are you able to capture? The goal as a trader is to maximize the potential of their strategy, and that comes with their ability to follow their rules and understand their trading plan. Don't deviate. The problem is the performance gap comes in when a trader comes in and only captures 10% of their actual edge, right? That happens so many times. In fact, some people, maybe you've experienced this yourself, which you probably have if you're here, you've had a strategy that has returned 100% in a year, right? I have strategies on YouTube that I show that have returned 100% last year. Guaranteed track record proven. Returned 100%. The strategy's there. And yet, somehow, there are thousands of traders that have tried that strategy and got a negative performance gap. Instead of making 100% with that strategy, they lost 20%. And so, it's not a strategy problem. It's a you problem. And the problem is that you keep running around in this same loop of trying a strategy. Strategy doesn't work. Find a new strategy. This one doesn't work either. That one doesn't work either. It's not the strategy. Maybe it's you. That's why I'm here to tell you that you can make any strategy work. But you must first validate the strategy. No one wants to be trading a strategy that doesn't work. You have to validate the strategy. And the way you do that is by properly testing a step-by-step, if this, then that system, a rule, a playbook on historical data. Most people don't do that. That's again what I've said. This is something that I teach hundreds of people that I've gone on to get multiple 7 figures in funding, hundreds of thousands of dollars in payouts. I'm doing it every single day. Validate the system. Step number 2, validate the self. Your ability to execute on your edge, to reduce this performance gap. That's the difference. I see traders that come into my mentorship all the time. They come in, they jump on a live session, they're like, hey man, I've been through the content. I understand everything. There were some things I was missing. That's amazing. But actually the strategy is pretty similar to what I already seen. It's like, okay, cool, great. But for some reason, when I was not doing the things that you're now explaining and helping me do, I was losing money. And now I've learned how to validate the system myself, which gives you confidence and the ability to know that you can show up and do it. You know how to trade it. You don't have the doubt. You don't have the uncertainty. You have the confidence, the clarity, the conviction every single day that you should take that trade. Huge problem again. One of the biggest mistakes that you're making right now that's causing you to have this performance gap is hesitation. You see a trade, you know that you should take it, and you don't take it. You don't take it, the trade plays out, it runs to profit, the next trade shows up. This one, you're like, damn, the last one won, I should have taken it, now I'm gonna take this one. You take the trade. What happens? The trade hits your stop loss. You only have to do that a couple of times until you've completely ruined the performance of your strategy. Because if you just take the losing trades in a strategy, bear in mind, every single trading strategy loses a lot of trades. The best strategies in the world have maybe 50%, 60% win rate, right? Meaning that if they take, 100 trades, 60 of them will win, maybe 50 of them will win. Again, win rate is not the biggest indicator of the success of a strategy. I personally know traders that have made millions of dollars trading a 30% win rate strategy. 30%, meaning that every 10 trades they take, they know they're gonna lose 7 trades and they still make hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? My strategy personally over the last 1.5 years has averaged at a 42% win rate. meaning for every 10 trades I take, I am gonna lose 6 of them. And yet I'm still able to make hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? That's the power of win rate. But the issue is none of this matters unless you validate yourself. And to validate yourself, you must have an operating system, the same as a business does. You must be able to see every single trade that you're taking, the reason why you're taking that trade. You must understand and be able to see where you're going wrong, because I'm telling you now, you are most likely the problem. You're making mistakes. And Ray Dalio, he's the owner, or he stepped down now, but was the owner of the world's largest institution, hedge fund, Bridgewater Associates, right? Bridgewater. Now, absolute huge hedge fund, one of my personal favorite mentors. And he had this principle, and this is a principle that I live by, and I tell all of my students. He says, pain plus reflection equals progress. And he has that in a loop. And so what he does is he says, we go through life, we take action, we make mistakes, we go through painful things, we begin to reflect on them, we make the changes required, we go to a new level. At that new level, we make more mistakes, we go through more pain, we reflect, and we grow. And this is the growth that Ray Dalio says that all humans go through. And I would take his word for that. Something that I personally experienced myself. The problem is you right now, you're going through pain after pain after pain, and you're not reflecting. Instead, you're escaping. You're going to find the new shiny object. It's like being in a toxic relationship, and you've been in that relationship for too long, and eventually the relationship ends. You don't go and get into another relationship and expect a different outcome. Einstein said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting something different. Huge difference. Same thing, same actions lead to the same results. That is stagnation, right? You're stuck doing the same thing, trying to get different results. Not gonna happen. Ray Dalio is, sure, you can make mistakes, but when you reflect on those mistakes, and you find out where you went wrong, and then you use that as an opportunity to learn and grow from those mistakes, then you will start to see progress. And that is what validation of self is all about. So I can guarantee you don't have a personal operating system set up right now for trading that is a system with processes where every single trade you take, you are reviewing that trade. Why you took it, when you took it, the confluences behind it. Was it a A+ setup? Was it a B-level setup, right? What was the expected return of that trade? Did you make any mistakes? Did you close it too early? You don't know. You could ask me, hey, how much money did you make on February the 22nd in 2024? I'll go and find out. I'll go pull up that data, tell you the exact trades I took, why I took them, how much money I made from those trades, if I made any mistakes from those trades. That's the level of detail that you need to have to validate yourself. Because listen, trading is very simple. People all the time tell me, trading is hard. Let's debunk this right now. Trading is hard. Wrong. You know what's hard? A rocket scientist is hard. Being a neurosurgeon is hard, right? Those are hard things. Trading is finding something that works, and there are people out there like myself that will show you what works. All you have to do is do it and not make mistakes. Hello, it doesn't get much easier than that. The problem is you. You're lazy, you don't want to do the work, or for most people, I understand, you don't know what to do. Again, like I said, that is what I am here to do. This is exactly what I help traders do. With Prosperity School, which is a program that we have, this is the thing that we do. We give people systems, 2 trading strategies, years of data, step by step, day in, day out, proof, every single trade taken, recorded myself, analyzed all of the data over and over again to make this system work. 2, the validation of self. Build your personal trading operating system, right? You see this all the time, this OS. You see Apple have it, all these companies have it, an OS, an operating system. You need an operating system. You need a system that you operate from that enables you to stay aligned with your progress. Again, trading isn't as simple as just finding a strategy, thinking that it's going to work, I'm going to go do it, and then it works. No. You have to make sure that the strategy works, which is the first thing that people go wrong with. There's so many gurus on YouTube that will tell you this 5-minute trading strategy that will make you $1 million. And the reality is most of them don't even make money from trading. Just the truth. You need to validate the system. The second is, okay, cool. Now you have a winning strategy. Now you need to validate yourself. Your ability to follow that plan. Which leads me on to my third point, which is ultimately deviance, right? I touched on it briefly in the validation of self, but the purpose of validation of self was to help you understand the trading operating system. Your trading operating system is the system you're going to use to validate yourself. Deviance is different. Deviance is your inability to follow that. Because the problem is there are things that are happening that are causing you to deviate. So it's very simple. If you have a profitable strategy, right, we'll mark that in green. If you have a profitable strategy that is proven to work, other people are trading it, it works. The data's there. But for some reason, you are unable to make money with it, or you're only able to, which is a problem that I had in the beginning. I had a strategy that worked great, but the potential of that strategy, I was only capturing a very small percentage of that potential, which in reality doesn't really change your life, right? So you have 2 problems. You have a complete deviance, which is just straight gambling. You are literally just not following your plan at all. Or you have inefficiency, which is you're not able to maximize the potential of your strategy. That's what deviance is. Now we have to ask the question, why? Great, you know what it is. Deviance is, I should take this trade, it meets my plan, I don't take it. Deviance is, I'm in a trade right now, right? I'm entering the market, I enter the market, price is sitting at my entry level, it comes down, it's near my stop loss. What do? You get scared, you get anxious, you look at this, you're like, if this level gets hit, I'm gonna lose $2,000. Right now, I'm only down $1,000. I think the market is gonna trade lower. Okay, fuck it, I'm just gonna close the position. You close the position, you lose $1,000, only to watch price go all the way to your profit target where you would have just made $10,000. That's deviance. And those things happen because of your mind. Because of your mindset, your psychology. Because the truth is, the mind that you were born with is not designed to make you win in the game of trading. Trading is essentially going against your biological response to danger. You are a biological animal, if you will, if we're going to get real with it. We're animals, and we have these instincts that we've eventually kind of evolved through, right? We have our own survival mechanisms. And our job as humans, the number one goal is to not die, is to preserve and reproduce. That's our goal. Our goal is safety, right? That's all we want. As humans, right, we complicate life a lot, but really all we really want, everything we do, even money, for example, right? You want money, not because, and this is on a deep level that most people don't even understand. You want money not just for the freedom, right? Because why do people who achieve financial freedom keep going? Why do these people that have made $100 million don't stop? They can't stop. It's not about freedom. They could have had freedom years ago. It's about something deeper. It's about safety. Because money essentially has the potentiality to keep you safe. Think about all of the experiences in the world where money could ultimately keep you safe. And then on top of that, we also have the desire to essentially reproduce, right? We are designed biologically to want to reproduce. So we want to stay safe and reproduce. That is us deep inside. And so everything we do, unless we've properly cultivated ourselves, we've come to a level of self-awareness within ourselves, we're able to understand our actions and reactions, everything that we do stems from these two things: the desire to be safe and the desire to reproduce. That's it. And so what happens when you're taking a trade, right? You're taking a trade right now, price comes into this level and price is going down, and you're looking at your chart and you're seeing your money fluctuate. It's down $100. It's down $1,500, right? Logically, you know that that's fine. If you've done these two steps, you know that your system, you don't get tagged into your trade and then it just goes. Sometimes you might sit around in this area where your entry is. You may be looking at your MetaTrade or your C-Trade or whatever you're using, and you're seeing your P&L fluctuate. It's going up, it's going down, right? Logically, you know that's part of your plan. You know that all you need to do is just get in that trade and follow your rules. On a physiological level, what's happening inside is there's this little chimp. There's this little animal that's trying to do everything it can to make you close this position because it can't handle it. It can't handle this because the loss here is triggering so much pain and so much unsafety. If I lose this money, your brain isn't able to think logically at that moment, right? There's real biological occurrences that are taking place. Essentially, if we put it very simply, right, your brain like this, when information comes into your brain, right, what happens is, and again, this is an evolution of humans, right? You go back 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, whatever it is, and you're a human and you're hunting or whatever, and you see a saber-toothed tiger. Now, your brain has wired itself to see that, and before you can even think, you're already in fight or flight. You're already, I'm gonna fight it or I'm done. That's it. And for the most part, you see it, boom, gone. Danger. Or the other way around. Maybe you see it and it's actually time to engage with it, right? That's your fight or flight response system. So what happens, information comes into the brain, and information is your perception of reality. So when you're sitting there and you're trading and you're seeing your P&L down 1,500, 1,700, 1,300, right? That is essentially data, bits of information that are coming into your brain. Now, instead of using the CEO of your brain, which is your decision-making functionality, which is your neocortex, what happens is a little area in the back of the brain called the amygdala. And that information goes straight to the amygdala, and the amygdala immediately starts freaking out. Now, unless you understand everything that I'm telling you now, and I'm touching the surface, this is something that I go so deep into inside of Prosperity School with my members. Again, this is something that I truly believe you have no chance of becoming a profitable trader unless you can rewire your mind to think like a trader. But again, I want to show you the things that are holding you back from trading, so you just at least get out of that cycle of just keep trying the same thing and not getting the results. Because I've seen traders have come to us, been trading for 7 years. 7 years, no results. Within 6 months, hundreds of thousands of dollars in funding, $10,000, $20,000 payouts. Within months of being with us. Why? Not because we're amazingly great and superior and we have some secrets and stuff like that. No, it's just because for 7 years he was doing the wrong things. Like, if you want to get a result, you have to do the things that get the results. That's why I hate the idea that people just say, like, it's about time, how long you spend trading. You need the experience. It's like, I was profitable before so many other traders because I've been doing this stuff for such a long period of time, especially the psychology stuff. So I was able to get ahead of the expected average time for a trader to become profitable. Granted, I had a lot of improvement over time, but yeah. Again, back to the point. Deviance. Essentially, if you're not able to control your mind, which most of you simply aren't because you don't understand what's happening, you can't solve a problem that you don't know exists. I think there's a lot of people out there that say, like, a problem identified is a problem half solved. So we as humans, we have so many problems that because we haven't actually identified them, they just eat at us inside, and it causes us so much discomfort. And the reality is that if you just get a pen and paper out and you just list out all of the problems that you have, well, now you have power, because now you can decide what you want to do with those problems. You have the power to solve those problems. So that's essentially it. Your final problem is deviance. And I could talk about deviance for hours. In fact, I do. I have well over 20 modules. I think it's like 27 or 30 or something like that, modules of me talking about things like deviance and psychology and the biological wiring and the beliefs that you hold, the neuroscience behind trading, like such deep details of why traders sabotage themselves, for example, and why traders just can't seem to follow their trading plan. Why hesitation? Why fear? Why greed? And get into the root cause of them. Moving from how to think like a normal person, because normal doesn't win in trading, to how to think like an actual professional trader. And the biggest problem we're solving here is deviance, which is your inability to follow your rules and do what you need to do to get the results. So to summarize, essentially, any strategy can work. You can give me any concept in the world. I personally trade smart money concepts because I think it's superior. I personally am the type of person who really likes to understand the why behind price. I'm obsessed with understanding the institutional order flow, the intricacies of how the market actually operates, the liquidity, the actual absorptions and exhaustions in the market, how supply and demand interrelates with each other, the actual order flow of price. I'm obsessed with getting to the root cause of things. And so for me personally, smart money concepts is the way that I like to trade, but you can give me anything. You can give me candlestick patterns, you can give me trend lines, you can give me anything. I will find a way to make that strategy make money. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to use it because I have a way superior system in my opinion. But you can give me any strategy, and by applying this framework, by validating the system, and by the way, validating the system, someone can teach a strategy, doesn't mean it's necessarily profitable. I need to go and test that system. I need to break it down into all of the different variables, right? I have a trading strategy, it's one playbook, and there's 22 different variations of that setup, and they're all graded based off of their actual performance with proper tracking and detailing. It sounds complicated, but it's really not. I need to take that system apart, go and test it, split it into its variables, and then go and test the entire system. And I might need to do that 4 or 5 times until I eventually get a model that is as efficient as I would like it to be. That's first thing. I could validate it because I know how to build a system. I know how to build an edge, right? It's not about the concepts. It's about being able to validate the concepts into a playbook. Then it's about validating the self. The validation of self is just simple. My personal operating system, I already have one. It's something that I teach to all of my members. I know how to track everything, how to review everything, because it's super important. Again, pain plus reflection equals progress. You have to know when you're making mistakes, because if you don't know whether 3 weeks ago you were making mistakes and that's why your strategy is not performing, or whether your strategy is just inefficient, you're not going to be able to make the best decisions. You don't know whether you should try a different strategy if you don't know whether the actual strategy is the problem or whether you're the problem. So you have to validate it, your ability to follow that plan, which is what I use my personal operating system for. And then finally, deviance, right? I can control myself. I'm not perfect. I'm not a robot. Sometimes I make mistakes, but it's about becoming as efficient as possible. I'm able to control myself because I just understand my edge. I understand my numbers. I understand my data. I understand the likely scenario of if I take 100 trades that I'm going to be profitable. So I don't mind if I lose 3 trades in a row. I don't avoid the 4th trade. I also equally don't double up on the 4th trade because I have the gambler's fallacy that the next trade should make money. That's not how it works either, which a lot of traders do. I just understand I take each trade as it comes, and I take it according to my system. And I do my very best. My definition of success is my ability to follow my process. It's not about how much money I make. It's not about how many Lambos I buy. It's not about how much money in the bank. It's about my obsession with mastery. That's the reality. And if you can get to that level, then it's impossible that you won't make a boatload of money. It's impossible you won't achieve the freedom that you want to achieve. But in order to do that, please, please, please figure out how to validate your system, figure out how to validate yourself, and figure out how to get beyond deviance. Because if you don't, you're never going to achieve the level of success. And again, if you would like my help and my team's help in doing this, in setting this up, in guiding you, walking you through it, in the link in the description, I'll leave an application. You can book a call, speak to one of my team, and we'll hold your hand through this entire process. Or feel free, go and try and figure it out yourself. But hopefully you enjoyed, you took the value, and get out of that trap.